Fallout Equestria Survivors Guild, Chapter 13, Crusader. Remembrance of things past is not necessarily the remembrance of things as they were. Marcel Proust. As the vertibus landed on Nomad City, a million thoughts were going through my brain at once. Was it really Apple Bloom? Was it possible that against all odds, she had somehow survived? I remembered that little Pip had found a skeleton in the Stapletech building in Philadelphia that was believed to be Apple Bloom's, but then again, Calamity had apparently found a skeleton of a Pegasus mare in Rainbow Dash's shack, which every pony believed was me, so skeletons weren't exactly the best evidence to prove either way. Ever since I first heard about that, I had to admit that I've wondered who that Pegasus was that had died in Rainbow Dash's shack. It wasn't me, and it certainly wasn't Rainbow, so they were just a nameless Pegasus that had died alone. Maybe she was a Dashite too? Another pony caught up in the machine of the Enclave that wanted to get out? I didn't know who they were, but I could respect that kind of thing. I just wished that we knew who it was so that they could be remembered properly, though.
Scootaloo!
I heard a familiar voice shout as Serenity weaved her way between ponies and hugged me tight.
When we heard that you went quiet after entering Stable 117, Serenity got worried.
Vanilla said with a smile as she walked up behind Serenity.
So, is everything okay? What even happened in there? Well, the Enclave attacked the stable, and they briefly held me and Star.
I said and nodded to the cyber pony Pegasus, who got off the vertibus behind me and hugged Jade and Pureheart.
Thankfully, Vex was there to help us.
I'm glad I could help, the changeling said with a smile as he gave Serenity a nod. It was good to fight alongside you again, Scootaloo. Kind of. I mean, it was good to fight alongside you, but... I just laughed a little at the changeling.
Don't worry about it, Vex. I know what you mean. It was good to fight with you too.
Thank you, Vex said with a nod before walking off.
So, what's this about there being a pony that looks like Apple Bloom?
I asked, and I turned to look at Jade.
Oh, well, a few days ago, she showed up in Ponyville along with a Pegasus mare in her 20s.
Jade said.
The Hellhound said that she had been coming in and out of the town for years, but it wasn't really considered important until now. Until there could be a possible connection with the Enclave.
I said with a sigh as I realized what that meant.
I don't think that Apple Bloom would willingly work for the Enclave, but we have to follow all possible leads. Yeah. Oh, and Scootaloo, if you want, you can stay out of this one.
Star said as she placed her hoof on my shoulder.
I know that this isn't really gonna be easy for you, regardless of who this pony is, and we can handle it if you want us to.
I paused for a long moment as I looked between her and then down at Serenity. It struck me how much the filly actually looked like Apple Bloom. She was a darker shade of yellow and her mane had 2 tones of red, but she looks like Apple Bloom, a lot. It was kinda strange really, but hey, it's been over 200 years, and there's no reason why she couldn't have inherited those traits from some pony. I mean, maybe it was nothing, it could have been just a coincidence and we were just chasing ghosts, but if it was her, then this might be the best chance I have for some kind of closure. If I didn't at least see her, then it would eat away at me for the rest of my life.
I'll go,
I finally said with a nod.
I just have to know what's going on, one way or another. Okay, well, we'll get it worked out.
Star said with a nod.
Can I go too?
Serenity asked, and she looked up at me in that cute, pleading way that fillies did that sometimes. I wish I could still do that.
Let's wait until we see what's going on first.
Vanilla said.
Aww.
Serenity said.
Serenity, we don't want the Enclave to know about you just yet. We don't know what they would do to you, and we don't want you to be hurt.
I said reassuringly, and I hugged the filly.
I promise. If everything turns out to be okay, you can come with us.
Vanilla shot me a look, but she didn't have a chance to protest as Serenity cheered. I smiled, and it was just kind of funny, but even though she had been through everything she had been through, Serenity really was just still a filly.
Are you sure that this will be okay?
Vanilla whispered to me.
It'll be fine. I'm sure everything will be okay.
I said with a nod.
I hope so. I really hope so.
That night we were back in the hotel in the temporary housing district. Serenity was staying with Star and her family again, so it was just us tonight. It felt like we just came back here over and over again, but it was nice to have some place to come back to.
So, we're gonna go to Sweet Apple Acres?
Ark asked as we got settled in for the night that evening.
Yeah, I don't know a lot about what's going on in that area these days, but that's my old stomping grounds,
I said with a smile as I thought back to the days before the war.
Me and my friends had a treehouse in the fields that we used as our headquarters. Do you think that might be where Apple Bloom is?
Cherry asked, and she seemed a bit uneasy about it. I didn't really blame her, since Apple Bloom was her ancestor.
Well, it's certainly possible,
I said with a shrug.
It always had that special significance to us, and up until Rainbow adopted me, it was really the closest thing I had to a real home. Well, I'm sure we'll find out what's going on,
Vanilla said.
So what about you, Scootaloo? How do you feel about this? I mean, she was one of your friends. Honestly, I feel a bit torn by it.
I said with a sigh as I brushed my mane back.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm excited about the whole prospect of one of them still being alive, but on the other hoof, I'm nervous about what's going on there. I really doubt that she was the one that gave the Enclave access the all-clear signal, but we do have to cover all bases. So the question is then, if it wasn't Cherry, Velvet Remedy, Serenity, or Apple Bloom that did it, who was it?
Ark asked as she looked between the three of us. Honestly, I didn't know either. Unless, of course, there was something else that we hadn't considered. Was it possible that there still was a member of the Apple family that we hadn't accounted for? Maybe there was. I mean, the Apples were a huge family. Then there also was my family, of course. There were a few branches of the family tree that seemed to end in the Enclave records. It looked like they may have gone Dashite, but it was kinda hard to tell based on the records alone. And there was still, of course, the matter of that odd encrypted file. The only ponies that we could rule out were any related to Sweetie Belle. The inhabitants of Stable 2 could be accounted for, and neither she or Rarity had any falls prior to that. So honestly, I had no idea.
Well, we'll figure it out, I guess.
I finally said.
Or, maybe the Enclave figured out a way around... No, can't. It can't be that, or they'd get access to the hub.
Some pony out there had access to it, and I wasn't sure I wanted to know who they were and what connection they had to the Enclave.
However, the Enclave got access to the signal, and we have to make sure that we can stop them,
Cherry said.
So, what do you think their next target will be? Honestly, I don't know. If they're looking for stables, there's still quite a few to choose from,
I said.
If they're looking for something specific, well, that's another matter entirely. We'll have to wait and see what happens. Wait, what about Stable 66?
Vanilla said, which made Ark flinch a little.
Would they have any reason to go there? Well, not that I can think of. Same with 81.
I said as I looked at Vanilla for a long moment.
So, of the ones that we know of that they did go after, only 48 was still active. What I'd like to do is see if I can get access to the Stable Tech HQ in Philadelphia, and that place may have some answers there. Which is easier said than done if the Enclave holds it.
Ark said with a sigh.
So, do you have any alternatives? Well, there's always that regional HQ in Manhattan again,
I said with a shrug.
But the main headquarters would be our best bet, though.
We talked a while longer, speculating about what we'd find in Sweet Apple Acres. The truth behind Winter Breeze, whatever it was that we could think of anyway. We didn't really have any concrete answers, and that's mostly because we didn't know what was going on. It would be until the next afternoon that we'd arrive at Ponyville, so as it approached 2300 hours, we finally called it a night. I yawned a little and laid back in bed next to Cherry.
I really hope that we find something tomorrow that'll help,
Cherry said tiredly as she snuggled up to me.
Me too, Cherry. Me too,
I said as I closed my eyes and drifted off to sleep. This is DJ Pone3 coming at you with another news report. It seems that the Enclave has once again been driven back, this time from the city of Horston that they had laid siege for in the last few days. It seems that once again, our good friend the Wanderer had a hoof in this, as she was last reported leaving the old Horston Knights Hoofball Stadium. Glad to see it didn't fall to the Enclave, and as my assistant will tell you, there's a lot of bad memories in that city. Now, let's get back to the music. Ponyville. Growing up, I had moved around Equestria a lot whenever I had been placed in a new foster home or orphanage. Ponyville was the first place that felt like home to me. I was able to make friends and find a family that loved and cared for me. It was different from what I remembered, of course. It was in a state of disrepair, but the hulking mutant creatures called hellhounds had been repairing it for years. I smiled and waved to Fluttershy as we approached.
Hey, Scootaloo.
Fluttershy said as she gently hugged me.
Welcome to Ponyville. All of you. Thank you, Fluttershy.
Star said with a smile as she shook hooves with the old Pegasus mare.
Hi.
Sherry said. She was a little surprised to be meeting her, but she smiled and introduced herself. Same with Arclight and Serenity, who had come down to see Ponyville.
So, you're here about Apple Bloom, right?
Fluttershy asked, and I nodded.
Well, I mean, we don't know exactly where she is.
Savage Rend will help ponies find friend, a tall and scarred hellhound said as he looked at all of us in turn. Can track Apple Pony's scent.
That would be great.
I said with a nod.
Thank you for helping us, Savage Rend.
Orange Feathered Pony, welcome, Savage Rend said.
Fluttershy, I hate to ask this of you, but can you watch Serenity for us?
Vanilla asked as she looked down at the little filly.
Just until we know what's going on. Oh, sure. I'd love to.
Fluttershy said as she smiled down at Serenity.
I'm sure she'll be on her best behavior, right? Oh, yes I will be.
Serenity said, and she smiled innocently. I had no idea who I felt more sorry for. Fluttershy for what was likely to happen next, or Serenity for when she got the stare. I swear, that stare terrified me sometimes. We waved goodbye as we headed towards Sweet Apple Acres. I adjusted my hat a little to try and keep my features covered. Even if the Enclave had broadcast the fact that I was still alive across Equestria, I wasn't exactly ready to tell Apple Bloom or whoever it was that it was me. And I was nervous all of a sudden. I didn't know what I was walking into. It could be a trap for all we knew. I looked at the 2 energy weapons I had fit into my battle saddle, and I did sell the rest of the armor on Nomad City. I think Reticle bought it, and I just took a deep breath as we passed by what was left of the barn and went into the fields. When we finally stopped, I couldn't believe what I saw. It looked like the old Crusader clubhouse, but it had been repaired and even expanded on. There were even a few places around the field that looked like a foundation had been started to be laid for more buildings, but they hadn't ever been finished yet.
Okay. That's not what I expected to find here.
Star commented as we looked around. There were signs of habitation, but nothing too recent. Some hoofprints looked like they were heading to the barn, though. We started towards the treehouse when a gunshot rang over our heads.
Blasted raiders, you're not getting my land!
An old mare's voice said as we looked up to see an aging Earth Pony mare with a faded yellow coat and red mane that was stranding in front of the door to the treehouse.
I'll fight you till the last pony! We're not raiders, we're just here to talk.
Jade called out.
We're looking for Apple Bloom. Well, y'all have found her, now get!
The mare, Apple Bloom said, I guess?
We were just here to check on things with you. If you want us to leave, we can...
I started to say when the door opened behind Apple Bloom and another pony stepped out, and I let out a gasp of surprise. She was a Pegasus dressed up in a simple Wastelander outfit, but that's not what really surprised me. She was a light shade of orange with a long mane with a light shade of purple mixed with a darker one. She looked at us with a pair of soft purple eyes, and she put her foreleg around Apple Bloom. She looked like a grown-up version of the foal from my dream.
I apologize for my aunt's behavior. We don't normally get guests that aren't trying to kill us.
The mare said with a smile.
If you want to come in, that's fine. Sparky?
I finally managed to say, which made the mare look at me strangely.
Yeah. How did you know my name?
She asked, and I removed the hat, which made both her and Apple Bloom gasp in shock.
Mom? But you're supposed to be dead.
I don't know why, but just her saying that seemed to hit me the hardest. The inside of the treehouse had been expanded on in the years since I had last been here. It looked like Apple Bloom and Sparky had added another couple of rooms. While they were small, at least it looked livable.
Okay, so I'm confused. exactly how are you here?
Sparky asked as she looked at me questioningly.
My mom's died in Philadelphia when I was a filly. You can't be her. Are you a changeling or something? Wait, your mom's?
Ark asked as she looked between Sparky and me.
Okay, I'm confused. What's going on here? I can explain that.
Apple Bloom said as she looked at me sadly.
So, some years ago, a secret facility near Philadelphia had developed some clones of myself, Scootaloo and Sweetie Belle.
Oh great, more clones. Why was it always clones? Well, anyway, that answered the question as to how Apple Bloom was still here at least. She was a clone, not the original.
We don't exactly know why they created us, but we were mostly left to fend for ourselves.
Apple Bloom continued.
I was created first, and later when Scootaloo and Sweetie Belle were born, I was tasked with taking care of them. They used some sort of flash memory system or something to give us the memories of the real thing as best as they could. Which included me and Sweetie Belle's relationship.
I said as I looked at Sparky.
Well, not in its entirety, but at least the feelings you had for each other.
Apple Bloom said.
When y'all were old enough, y'all started to develop some feelings. I don't quite know if it was because of the memories, or if it was just because y'all genuinely felt that way, but y'all fell in love after finding some information on the feed from Stable 27.
Wait, the feed from 27? Wait, so did that mean whoever created them was able to hack into the stable network? The facility had to be the secondary monitoring station we set up outside of Philadelphia then.
Sparky was born after a few months later, and for a time, everything was happy. Then he came. He?
Cherry asked, and she looked a little confused, but I knew who she exactly was talking about from reading about Little Pip.
Red-Eye. And his army.
I said, and Apple Bloom nodded.
They used Philadelphia as a main base. They attacked the facility and destroyed the robots in it.
Sparky said with a shake of her head.
Mama Sweetie got killed in the fight. And you... They sent you to the arena where you died in combat trying to free us. Yeah.
Apple Bloom said sadly.
Sparky was taken to one of the Red-Eye schools when I had to work in Philadelphia as a slave. I thought all hope was lost until that Lightbringer came. We managed to get out of that hellhole after Red-Eye was defeated and headed to Stable 2 in hopes of finding something there. But, of course, it was empty.
I said.
So, you set up shop here and in Stable 2 in order to make a living for yourself? Yeah, that's about it.
Sparky said with a nod.
So, what about you? What's your story? Another clone maybe, or are you Mom from another universe? No, not to both.
I said with a sigh as I played with my hat a little.
So, I know that this may sound crazy, but I'm the original Scootaloo. I was rescued by Rainbow Dash, who placed me in the magical stasis that healed me over the years, until I just woke up last year. I see,
Sparky said, and I could still see the pain and sadness in her eyes. Still, she missed her parents a lot, but I didn't blame her.
So, why are you here? Well, we're here investigating your aunt, actually.
Star said, and she nodded to Apple Bloom.
So, have you heard about the radio broadcast from Winterbreeze? Well, some of it. I have to say, I didn't quite believe everything she said.
Apple Bloom said with a shrug.
Especially the little bit about y'all being still alive, Scootaloo. It sounded like a bunch of horse apples to me. Guess I was wrong about that. Yeah, a lot of ponies were surprised about that one.
Ark said.
Hey, at least you didn't punch me in the face.
I said with a chuckle.
You're never gonna let me live that one down, are you?
Ark said with a groan.
Wait, you punched her in the face?
Sparky asked as she looked at Ark.
Why? Well, you see, we had just met and I was still angry about what happened to my home, and...
Ark said sheepishly.
I spent a few days in jail for it, though. Well, we both did, really.
I reminded her. Apple Bloom and Sparky just laughed a little at that. It was actually kinda nice to see that things weren't too bad around here.